Reddeos presents r/AskReddit. If you enjoy the video, show your support by commenting, liking and subscribing to the channel. What is one common mistake tourists make in your country? People think the Royal Guard in London are just men in silly hats that are not allowed to move. They're military men who will knock you out if you mess with them. They trust taxi drivers. Never trust one if you're in Greece, you're just asking to be overcharged. Stick to renting a car or at the very least, ask some locals for typical prices beforehand. Driving on the wrong side of the road. Also not leaving enough time to explore the South Island. Underestimating the size of the country. No, you can't do a day trip to Cairns from Brisbane, it's like a 2-day drive. Even Sydney is like a 12-hour drive. Actually, same with NZ. People think you can do the whole country in a week. Spoiler alert, you can't. Thinking all the airports with London in their names are in London. I imagine Southend is a bit of a shock for someone expecting a cosmopolitan megalopolis. They often don't wear sunscreen. The amount of burnt tomato people I see. They think they can drive around London. Why would you do that? Every year on the 30th of April we have tourists show up in our capital dressed in orange, to celebrate Queen's Day. But 5 years ago our Queen abdicated and her son is now our king. The holiday was moved to his birthday, on the 27th of April. Mostly happens at Bondi Beach, but this can happen at any beach all over Australia. People swimming out of the flags. Most often these people will get stuck in rips or into waters where there are surfers. Norway. Tourists arriving by cruise ships. They bus to where the path to popular mountain treks begin, then they start out in sandals or high heels and wearing shorts and t-shirts. Most make it part of the way, and then local volunteer rescue services have to help them back down as they are cold and exhausted. We've even flown in Nepalese Sherpas to build stone steps up the hardest parts some places. Some make it all the way up and by then it's dark and they get lost, and again we'll have to send out volunteer rescue crew or a rescue helicopter. There are signs where the buses drop them off warning them to be dressed properly, and there are volunteers stationed there during high season actually telling them that they should not be doing the hike because of weather, or because of what they are wearing. We also get a lot of fishing tourists. Sports fishing in salt water is free here, and there are a lot of great places to fish. They will go out in groups of 5 to 7 people in a single small boat. They have no idea of the local weather or geography, and they tend to either fall in, get themselves completely lost, or hit a reef and start to take in water. They also tend to not be able to speak English or Norwegian, so communication with rescue services are extremely difficult. TLDR. Tourists come to Norway, underestimate our nature and weather, and then they die or need to be rescued. New Zealanders have a unanimous hatred for people renting juicy campers and doing 20 kilometers under the speed limit. We get tourists that have never driven before or have super limited experience who are legitimately dangerous. So inexperienced driving a campervan. Walk on cycling paths. Expecting iced tea to have ice in it. I flew into New York. Figured I'd rent a car and take a quick day trip to Miami or Los Angeles. Maybe underestimating how crazy expensive Norway is. Also safety stuff when it comes to mountain climbing, toilet situation in Lofoten. They think that the guys and girls looks like pop idols. Boy were they wrong the moment the aircraft landed. Face with tears of joy. I'm going to Oslo, what's your best advice for seeing the Northern Lights? Judging the entire population based on an interaction with a waiter in a busy cafe in the capital which was almost entirely their own fault. Backstory, it was a thing in the Netherlands that on the 30th of April we celebrated our Queen Beatrix's birthday. It is printed in all tourguides in other countries. Her actual birthday is in January, but they put it in April because that was the birthday of our late Queen Juliana, Beatrix's mother. And also because the weather is better in April. A few years ago Beatrix abdicated the crown and now we have a king. His actual birthday is on the 27th of April, so now our King's Day is actually on the 27th. This has not been amended yet in Turgudes across the border. So every year we see tourists dressed in orange, which is the color of our royal house. They are super drunk in the streets looking for the parties, while those were 3 days prior. And because most tourists only stay for a day or two, there is no way for them to know that you think you can cover everything you want to see in America in a single week. America is big. Stupid big. And probably expensive, depending on where you come from. Mistaking landmarks for other landmarks. In London, Tower Bridge is the one with the towers and the roadway that can be raised up for ships to pass. London Bridge is the boring 1960s concrete span slightly further upstream. Mostly because when I walked over Tower Bridge yesterday, a group of tourists were loudly singing the nursery rhyme "London Bridge is falling down." Bringing winter clothes in the middle of summer. Some people don't realize that southern Canada actually gets quite warm in July, 25 to 35 C. It's only perma snow up north. Wear sunscreen when going to New Zealand. I have lived in New Zealand my whole life, and holy, our sun is strong. I burn so easily if I don't wear sunscreen. A family friend of mine who is from Australia came over here for a holiday once. We were all getting prepped for a beach day and my mom tells us to put on sunscreen. My family friend, who is very very tan, says, "I don't burn, I'm good." My mum then questions him, telling him the New Zealand sun is different to the Australian sun. He says, "It's actually hotter in Australia, so yeah nah, I'll be fine." My mum doesn't want to force this kid to put sunscreen on, so she just lets it go and we all go to the beach. Fast forward to the end of the day and my family friend is burnt to an absolute crisp. Like he couldn't move. The worst sunburn I have ever seen. I've never seen someone use that much aloe vera before. Always remember to listen to the locals, they know what they're talking about. Buy water in bottles when it is expensive and exactly the same water as we have on tap. They think everybody is nice and traditional and walk around in kilts all the time, but really we just go out drinking half the time. Asking someone on the streets of Oxford where is Oxford University. Always tempting to send them to the dingy central office building in Wellington Square. I live in Rome. Tourists come and visit only the city centre, neglecting any other interesting historical sites, or other nice things, which are easy to get to, equally nice to visit, yet a bit far from the centre. That Amsterdam represents the Netherlands. They are so wrong. I don't really like Amsterdam. It's just full of weed and everyone is speaking English. That's not my country at all. I'll do my town, Austin TX. A major common mistake tourists make here is wasting half a day for Franklin's barbecue. Look, his brisket is good, but it's not waste half a day of your vacation in Austin standing in line good. There are a plethora of barbecue joints with just as good or better brisket that have no wait all day. They assume any of us have actually seen The Sound of Music. I regret to inform you that most Austrians haven't even heard of it. Also, there's nothing special about Café Central, no need to wait hours to get in. If you want a good Sachertorte, get it anywhere else than Hotel Sacher. Don't do Hitler impressions, they can get you arrested or fined. To be fair, tourists mostly do that over in Germany, but it's illegal there too. Talk very slowly to try to get people who don't speak their language understand them. Australia, thinking you can drive between Sydney and Perth for a day trip. Not so much. Hong Kong, thinking it's a cheap South Asian tourist destination like Thailand. Not so much. Eat Vegemite, by the spoon. They also go up to locals and yell, "Where's the shrimp on the bar bean what?" One time I casually said back, "They are prawns, you daft." Nothing can kill you in New Zealand. The mistake is that while that's 100% true when it comes to wildlife, it's not true when it comes to the everyday stuff. For example, the weather, object ID equals 1221688. The surf, object ID equals 3754. The roads, yourself, or your Tinder date. Trying to use American money, it's Canada. Common enough that it's often accepted in tourist areas, but they usually get screwed because they'll take it at par. Buying the tiny overpriced bottles of maple syrup, go to a grocery store. Anyone, or paying the ridiculous price for fake Native American sculptures and other miscellaneous tourist schlock. Expecting anyone to actually speak French outside of Quebec. I've heard stories of people who expect to go skiing in July or August, but I'm not totally sure that isn't an urban legend. Scotland is apparently full of gingers wearing tartan kilts playing bagpipes. Walking with their phone out in the streets. That's just asking to get robbed. I see people waiting hours in line to go to the top of Empire State Building or the ferry to Statue of Liberty etc. when there's tons of other cool neighborhoods to be in, museums to visit and bars/food joints to try in NYC that don't require standing in the sweltering heat for 4 hours in the summer. Apparently squatting on toilets too, based on this sign I saw in a local bathroom. We don't have igloos. We aren't covered in snow 12 months a year. Our cities are a long way apart. Think that because the flight was cheap, the hotel will be cheap as well. Forget most shops are closed on Sundays and can't buy alcohol. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, like and subscribe.